Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the X-Men, Magneto, and the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. But before we get into that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love hearing from you guys. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to today's story is a quick recap of recent relevant adventures. The West Coast version of Murder World recently made robotic duplicates of classic Marvel villains. A Doctor Doom robot discovered the Skrull had the ability to reproduce famous items like the Infinity Gauntlet. So the all new robotic Masters of Evil, including Magneto, stole the equipment they needed to make it happen. But it all fell through in the end when the Masters of Evil failed to acquire the needed power source. Which brings us to the main plot of today's story, which begins with the cloaked, orbiting head of the Galactus robot, which the robotic Masters of Evil are now using as a secret base of operations. The Doctor Doom robot had control so long as he knew how to build an Infinity Gauntlet and nobody else did. But now that the plan has failed and he's no longer dangling that carrot, the various villains are all arguing amongst themselves. And in the end, the Magneto robot has had enough, so he strikes out on his own. Meanwhile, the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants consists of Miguel, Hector, Saxton, Warren, Sean, Hoshi, and Thurman. They had been attacked by a villain named Val Grafton, who farmed them for the body parts that gave them their various mutant powers. Then Powerhouse had an old friend named Bioman come to the X Mansion and regrow their lost appendages. But the damage was done, and we established that they were now going by the name Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So the Magneto robot shows up, and like all the robots created in Murder World, he's like a Terminator in that he looks totally biological. But these guys think he's the original Magneto, and he does nothing to correct this. He says he created the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and he tries to assume control of the group. Miguel is the current leader, though, so he shoots a fusion blast at Magneto. But Magneto has a 12 AP force field, which blocks the 10 AP energy blast. Magneto then manipulates the iron in everybody's bloodstream, letting them know who's boss. Miguel submits. Then, under his breath, he whispers, "For now." Magneto says, "Excellent," then tests their abilities. If they are to be his soldiers, he wants them all to be competent and powerful. He is disappointed to find the condition they are in after their run in with Grafton. So he leads them to Empire State University, specifically to the Neogenics lab in the Connors building. Security guards show up, but of course, Magneto effortlessly disposes of them. And while the general public has no idea who these other villains are, they all recognize Magneto right away. And soon the NYPD are notified. But by the time they arrive on the scene, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is powered up. Miguel blasts police cruisers with his fusion energy blasts. Hector Redford becomes a literal one man army. Saxton Weaver kills the power to that entire city block. Warren teleports over to where the enemy leader is, then teleports them both into the sky. Then Warren, by himself, teleports back to where he started, and that cop falls out of the sky and hits sidewalk. Sean Weaver goes to the Central Park Zoo to recruit animal minions to command. And Thurman Crocker fires a sonic beam at another cop car, shattering its windshield and destroying the engine. As Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants prove to be a bigger problem than the authorities can handle, Angel, Banshee, Beast, Colossus, Cyclops, Forge, Iceman, Jean Summers, Multiple Man, Nightcrawler, Storm, Sunfire, Thunderbird, and Wolverine all show up in the Blackbird. Saxton kills its onboard computers and shuts off all power to the long black jet. Jean sets it down gently using telekinesis. Hoshi Hime then uses his neutralize powers on the X-Men, shutting off all of their powers. But Wolverine still has claws, so he runs across the ground like what we saw in the recent Deadpool movie. Then he launches himself at Hoshi, slicing and dicing. He cuts the arrogant villain to shreds. The X-Men get their powers back, and of course, Cyclops tells Wolverine to avoid killing combat. The dead mutant is completely robbed of any chance he'll ever have to see the light and be reformed. But Wolverine does not care. Cyclops uses an optic blast on Miguel Norton, and Miguel takes some damage, but not enough for him to be knocked out. So Colossus punches Miguel, and the two of them are in about the same ballpark when it comes to their strength and body. So together, Cyclops and Colossus are able to knock out Miguel Norton. Multiple Man attacks Hector Redford, and in the end of the day, Multiple Man has more APs of the split power than Hector does. So Hector is outnumbered and defeated. Forge attacks Saxon Weaver, but Saxton shuts off Forge's cyborg components. Wolverine sees this and guts Saxton, starting with his face. Nightcrawler attacks Warren, and they are evenly matched. The same can be said for Banshee and Thurman. And as the rounds stretch on, Wolverine comes into each fight and finishes each villain. Meanwhile, the Magneto robot is dogpiled by Angel, Beast, Iceman, Jean, Storm, Sunfire, and Thunderbird. Magneto tries to multi-attack them all. And in a multi-attack situation, you start with the foe who has the highest dexterity, which in this case is Beast. And then on top of that, you get more penalties to your roll based on how many opponents you're trying to attack at once. So Magneto fails, and the X-Men all attack him with their various powers. Once the Magneto robot is knocked out, Wolverine does what he did to every other member of the Brotherhood, which is he sticks his claws in the robot and finishes him off. Cyclops tells Wolverine that that wasn't needed, and Wolverine tells Cyclops that Cyclops isn't needed. Wolverine gives what is essentially the peacemaker argument that if heroes do the whole catch and release thing, then everyone that villain kills later is the fault of that hero. Cyclops talks about Professor Xavier and his dream, and he says that sometimes Wolverine seems like a bigger villain than the other guys the X-Men usually fight. Wolverine tells Cyclops that he can go tell that to the family of that cop that got splattered all over the sidewalk by Warren. Then Wolverine tells Cyclops to go F himself, and he quits the team. Which brings us to the epilogue. Wolverine follows the scent of Sean Weaver to the Central Park Zoo, where Weaver has recruited a small army of animals that do his bidding. Wolverine is something of a wild animal himself, so he slices through the various beasts, making his way to Weaver. Then he guts him, just like he did to the rest of the Brotherhood. CCTV footage of this winds up on YouTube, and it's almost like another Harambe incident in a way. It goes viral, and people who hate mutants point at this as evidence for how awful they think all mutants are. In Washington, D.C., people argue back and forth about additional funding for Project Wide Awake and the need for more Sentinels, which is, of course, a story for another day. We enjoyed this one. We hope you did too. If so, as always, smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed because YouTube loves to unsubscribe you and not tell you, and leave us a comment. And from all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.